one of these small white forms and then bring it up here. We'll get started in just a minute here.
Give it to Carl. Yep. Well, I just used one. I'll just start yelling.
Have a wrestling match? Give me that. Good evening. I'd like to call the April 17th Boone County Board meeting to order at 6:34 p.m. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance and then be seated and have an invocation. At this point, I'd like to invite Pastor Jim of United Methodist Church here in Belvidere to come up and give us an opening invocation.
Thank you, Carl. Thanks for the invitation. You've heard I'm Jim Bell, and I'm glad to be here tonight on behalf of the folks at First United Methodist Church, which include Jeff Carlisle, our brother, Kurt Newport, some friends in the back. If I saw any more familiar faces, I'd have to pass the plate tonight. And I don't know if they're here for moral support for me or out of their love for Ken Terranoni, who is also one of ours, and certainly the reason for me to be glad to be here tonight. Before I say anything about the church, I do just want to say I've only been serving the church for about 9 months. I come bringing outsider eyes. I've served churches in Will and Lake and McHenry and Kane counties, and my early impression is that this is a very well-run county. I'm pleased with the quality of life and the evidence of community spirit and leadership. With that said, what Carl had told me was to say a few words about First United Methodist Church, maybe allow a moment for a question if anybody had one, and then to offer the prayer. I don't know what anybody would want to ask about First United Methodist Church, but I'll give you a shot. So a few words about First United Methodist Church. Greatest church ever. Well, you see, there you have it. All right, maybe a few more. We are one of the historic United Methodist churches. If you follow our history, we spread with the westward expansion of the United States, so that there was a Methodist preaching house here just under 2 years after the first settler arrived. And that's kind of been how we've grown through history. There was a time when there was a Methodist church in every zip code in the United States of America. So in some ways, we've been here sort of from the beginning. And again, if you were a geek of United Methodist history, I assume I'm the only one in the room, we had this really famous dude who would ride around on horses to help all these little pioneer communities. Famous guy in history named Jesse Walker. And I did not realize that he had gotten this far north. I had run into him at some of the churches that I'd served before. And so the people who keep the archives for our place are real interested in Belvidere because I don't know that he got any further north than this. So a lot of history, but we built a new building from about 2000 to 2004. We moved from a downtown location to our current location up on Boone Avenue, right by the bypass and the fairgrounds. And my hope is that that means that we are more about our future than we are about our past, that we're more invested in ministry than we are in nostalgia. And my hope is, and I'm still kind of looking for signs, my hope is that we're more interested in the people who are yet coming in than the people who are already here. Our church is on a roll right now. Worship attendance is growing, giving is growing, the stuff we usually measure is healthy. There's a great morale. We're receiving some people who are younger than the pastor, which makes him feel bad and everybody else feel good, and families with kids. And we've just undertaken a campaign, or are in the process of kicking it off. We're going to pay off our debt and free up our resources to be more involved in ministry. And as part of that, we're committing a bunch of the giving to mission work in our community. So over the next 3 years, we expect that you'll be able to see some significant community ministry coming out of First United Methodist Church. And we've already been talking with the Ministerial Alliance, and you may see some of that activity in some of our other churches as they join in with us. In expressing that in Christian terms, our mission team has latched on to the biblical concept of being redeemers to our community, which goes beyond just hoping that things go well for people, to saying whatever happens to somebody else happens to us, whatever is said to somebody else is said to us, whatever is done to somebody else is done to us. And we found that to be just a great dovetail with the health department's work on establishing a trauma-informed community. Because one of the things that makes a difference in the life of a child who's going through trauma is to have somebody who, just doesn't just wish them well, but is invested in them. So we're looking forward to being partners in that movement with the health department. You'll see us at the county fair. We are working on partnerships with the police and the Y and the library and the schools. And we'd encourage our county board to think of us among community partners. If there's a grant to be given, if there's volunteer support, that would be helpful. If there's a way for us to get word out or be boots on the ground, our sense is that that's our call, and we'd like to make ourselves available for that. Any questions before? I couldn't think of a frequently asked question, but is there anything else that I could say before we pray? Well, good. Thanks for welcoming me here. And I was texting Molly Terranoni just out in the parking lot because they say that's what the younger people do. And you should know that Ken has just moved from Javon Bay to a rehab hospital. And while his initial stroke and prognosis were quite grave, we see nothing but signs of progress, and we're optimistic. And so I'm going to ask that you join me in praying for Ken first and then for your work among our county. Lord, thank you that we are joined together, even folks who have never met each other, joined together in our love and concern for Ken. We ask, because you have watched over his life and know his faithfulness, that you would reward that faithfulness with your consideration. We ask that you would have mercy on Ken's body. Lord, you know the processes that are at work. Perhaps his natural healing and the work of medicine will restore him fully, and you stand by. Perhaps, Lord, you intervene in ways that we might never understand or be able to measure, but that defy the laws of science. And we ask that by whatever means, you would restore Ken fully in your time. We ask that you would sustain Molly, and particularly as she now needs to drive farther to be with Ken, we ask that you would give her strength and safety as she travels. And we thank you that she is surrounded by family and friends who lift her spirits and carry her. And we ask that you would continue to send those and that you would bless them for their gifts. Here, Lord, we ask that you would strengthen those who carry on Ken's work, not just to do the tasks, but to also offer a spirit that is like Ken's to the work that they do. We pray that you would help those interactions that he would have brokered with his listening ears and gentle spirit. We ask that you would help those who work in the vacuum to sense the value of Ken's contributions. And we ask that you would give those who carry on a chance to express their gratitude for all that Ken is and does, and that he would be able to receive those expressions and be affirmed by them in this life. Lord, we ask that you would guard our communities, not just strengthening those who serve them, but also watching over us for good. We pray that you would provide for the people of Boone County, that you would give wisdom to our leaders, that you would fill us with a spirit of peace as we come and go and work. We ask that you would bless our farms with fertility and productivity, that you would watch over our workers and make it possible for them to sustain their families with a reasonable quality of life. We ask that you would heal those families. Lord, you know which ones are splintered, which ones are fractured. We ask that you would guide our children in the way that they should go. You know which of them, Lord, need additional help from you or from one of us. We ask that you would strengthen the bonds that unite us, the concern that we have for each other, the love that we express for each other. Lord, by the combination of our wise governance, our productive economy, and our virtuous citizenship, would you establish us, Boone County, improve our quality of life? May we all enjoy it together. Grant that we may enjoy the gift of life that you have given us and the provision that you have made for us. Now, Lord, preside over this board and over tonight's deliberation. May everything that we think, say, and do be pleasing in your sight. And as we return home, may we know your pleasure in the ways that we offer ourselves in service to your people. And may we trust you for your reward in this life and in the next. All this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pastor Jim, thank you very much for those words, and thank you for all that you and your congregation do for our community. Next up, I am honored to invite a special guest of ours to come up and say a few words to us. Most of you are familiar with Mr. Ternoni, Ken Ternoni, and the issues that he and his family are having to go through at this time. So we are fortunate that Ken's brother David, who I might also add is a retired from the Air Force after many years of service there, and thank you very much for your service in our nation's military. We appreciate that, but he is here to just say a few words to the board. Great. Just make sure you talk real close into the microphone.
Well, see, you said pretty good for a speaker, right? Well, you said I retired from the Air Force. You didn't tell them what I did.
You were a chaplain.
Yes, 31 years as an Air Force chaplain. And if you know Ken, if you saw those Air Force shirts, that's all he wanted for Christmas and his birthday. So I supplied him well, and he's been to 18, we've moved 18 times. He's been every place. Thank you very much for the invitation. We knew that Pastor Jim and his congregation was going to be here to pray for him, and we felt that it was good to have a family member here, and guess who got elected? That's me. Now I have to ask, just curiosity, because it pays to know who your audience is. How many of y'all know Ken or have met Ken or have a clue who he is? Most of y'all. Oh, okay. Good thing I brought a supply of Kleenex. Okay, well, did want to make, obviously, a few comments. Thank you, first of all. Ken has served here for over 30 years. And like I say, I just retired after 31 years, so I know what, as our core values in the Air Force are, integrity, service, and excellence. That was Ken. And, sorry. Emotions are a funny thing. Yes, I'm the older brother. There's just the two of us. And I know I saw him after, like you did, shortly after his surgery, saw him Sunday morning. And I said, finally, you look like the rest of the men in our family. So they shaved him good. It's like, finally. Yeah, he didn't react to that either. But I'm proud of him. He has worked, as you know, he's done amazing things here. And back in 2009 and 2008, when the market crashed, I'm trying to get the emotional stuff out of the way first so I can move on to the other things. I told him how proud I was. And I don't know how I'm not going to say juggled books because I'm sure someone lawyers here, but however he did it to help make sure that nobody got laid off when the rest of the country seemed to be not sure. That says something. So yes, I'm a proud old brother. Okay, the second thing is Molly said when she put in the call, golly, this is terrible. Excuse me. Yes, I am a professional speaker, but it is my brother. She said 3 deputy sheriffs and 2 ambulances showed up at the house. Now, unless you guys are bored, that says something. And as also a person who's worn the uniform for many years, to me, I interpret that as you count him as one of yours. That's great, because you are his whole life. Okay, now, thank you for tolerating that. The other things I need to mention is we're somewhat of a slightly private family because, he knows a lot of people, a lot more people know him. A lot of the world knows me, and so we've not put this on Facebook at all in case you're wondering and looking, and that's intentional. I can tell you that prayers have been amazingly answered this past week. Like Carol said, or maybe it was Jim said, after Molly called the EMS, she called me, and at that point, they didn't think he'd make it through surgery. Dang it. Sorry. But he's gone from surgery to still being with us. And lots of miracles along the way, trust me. Right people, right place, right time, right doctor, right hospital, right down the road. I mean, you're talking to a chaplain. I look at coincidences when God remains anonymous. Okay, now if I can get my eyes clear up. So a lot of miracles have happened. He's still surviving. He's still with us. As I think Pastor Jim said, he's been moved to Sycamore, which is an acute care long-term facility. Their primary expertise is weaning people off of vents, and we're just waiting for him to come out. And as some of you know, no 2 brain injuries are alike. So it comes down to my last comment. For those who are of the Christian faith, as am I, this is Holy Week. And the thing about Holy Week is we all like to remember Palm Sunday, those who look at that, and we all like to celebrate Easter, but you don't get Easter without the tomb. And that's where my family and I are now. But we know Easter. And whatever the result, that's still true. And I'm sorry I did not plan to be quite this emotional, but I will ask for your continued prayers and support as we look ahead. And, of course, my wife and I, we retired to Bloomington Normal, so we're going to be looking to see what Molly needs over this next period of time. And so any support that you all continue doing is welcome because, frankly, our lives continue, don't they? We have a crisis for a few days or a week or 2, and then we have other things in our lives to worry about. But in the back of your mind, if you ever think you can, if you think of Molly, drop a prayer, please. And I guess I'll stop now. That's not too bad for a preacher. 5 minutes. Okay. Thank you very much.
David, thank you very much. And I say this truly from my heart, that we're all praying very deeply for you and Molly and your wife and Ken and the whole family. And we hope that, whatever God's will is done. And I know this is a tough week, but like you said, you mentioned Easter. We know there are good things that can happen, and please don't apologize for being emotional. You are his brother, and you certainly care a lot for him, as many of us do. So let us know if there's anything we can do as an extended family of Ken's, and so much he's done for us and many people in this room. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you, Carl, and thank you all.
Thank you very much. Are you sure you could come up here for a while if you want, hang out? All right. Thank you so much. Take care. Next up, I get to introduce one more guest, although not really a guest. It's a permanent addition to our Boone County staff. We many of you know, we've been in the market for a land use planner, and we, I think, found a gem who couldn't wait to come back to the Rockford, Belvidere, Boone County area, and we were able to bring in Izzy Mandujano. I hope I said that right. But Izzy, if you want to just introduce yourself a little bit to the board and say anything you'd like.
Okay. Thank you, Carl. Good afternoon, everyone. As Carl said, my name is Izzy Mandujano, and I am the new land use planner for Boone County. I come to Boone County with experience working in rural and urban communities here and abroad. And in addition to that, I have a master's in urban planning and public policy. I'm very excited to work with the board and the commissions and Boone County, and I look forward to it. So thank you.
Any questions for Izzy before we let her go? I told her she had, she came in Monday. I told her she had till tonight at 6:30 to know everything. So, no, Izzy, thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Finally, roll call.
Carl Johnson,
Here.
Sherry Bartelt,
Here.
Jeff Carlisle,
Here.
Denny Ellingson, Here. Sherry Gieske,
Here.
Carl Larson,
Here.
Ray Larson,
Here.
Jessica Muehlner,
Here.
Marshall Newhouse,
Here.
Bernard O'Malley,
Here.
Brad Stark,
Here.
Kathy Ward.
Here.
Next up, one quick announcement. If there's anybody else in the audience who would like to speak during public speaking, I'd ask that you please come up now and fill out a form and bring that form up here to me at this point. Next up, before we approve the agenda, I would like to move the public comment 6.1 ahead of 5.1. So basically switch appointments and recognition to 6 and move public comment to 5. I would like to make that a permanent move also. I've talked to staff, and I actually meant to check that the other day, and apparently it was a late night and I read it wrong, so I apologize for that. So we'd like to make that adjustment to the schedule, and then with that being said, I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Stark, seconded by Mr. Carlisle. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, I'd accept a motion to approve the March 20th County Board meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Carlisle, seconded by Ms. Gieske. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. First up, public comment. Last call for public comment. Okay. First up, we have Jennifer Tobin Tinch to talk about Relay for Life, Boone and Winnebago County. If you could, just make sure that you talk real close to the microphone so that we can get it recorded and put it on YouTube later. No, I'm just kidding. And then also, if you could just state your name and address for the record for us, please.
My name is Jennifer Tobin Tinch. My address is 727 East 2nd Street in Belvidere, Illinois. Good evening. My name is Jennifer Tobin Tinch, and I am the 2019 event lead for Hope Fest Relay for Life of Boone and Winnebago counties. This year's event is June 1st, 2019, from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Boone County Fairgrounds. For those of you who don't know what Relay is, it's a team event where communities like Boone and Winnebago counties come together to honor cancer survivors, remember loved ones lost, and fight back against a disease that has already taken too much. Relay raises awareness of cancer in the community and raises money to support the programs and services of the American Cancer Society. Please let me tell you why I relay. My family became involved with Relay for Life in 1997 when my mom, Margaret Tobin, was diagnosed with breast cancer. She was on her treatment journey when I was diagnosed with uterine and cervical cancers in 2000. We lost my mom in 2002. My oldest sister, Linda C.A., was diagnosed with glioblastoma brain cancer in August of 2007 and joined our mom 9 weeks later. During these times, we turned to the American Cancer Society, and they offered help and support. I'm here to invite our elected officials, staff, and community to join us at Relay and help us fight back against cancer. Our theme this year is Hope Fest because we want to offer hope to every person that is fighting, caregiving, or to those remembering a loved one who has lost their fight. Because without hope, how can you cope with this terrible disease? Right now, we have over 15 teams participating in this year's event, and I want all of you to join us on the track. We have lots of family-friendly fun scheduled, including a vendor crafter fair with 50 participants, Pull for a Cure fire truck pull, a kids area, a silent auction, survivor luncheon and activities, a 1-mile family fun run, luminaria ceremony, and much, much more. The funds we raise truly do make a difference in the fight against cancer. Just ask one of the nearly 14 million cancer survivors who celebrate another birthday this year. So please join us on Saturday, June 1st at the Boone County Fairgrounds. Opening ceremony is at 1 p.m. Pull for a Cure fire truck pull is at 3:15 p.m. Luminaria ceremony is at 5 p.m. Closing ceremony is at 6 p.m. To sign up as a survivor, a team, or make a donation to Relay, visit www.relay.acsevents.org and choose Relay for Life of Boone and Winnebago counties. For American Cancer Society services and support, please call 800-227-2345. Thank you for your time tonight, and I hope to see you all on June 1st.
What was that website one more time?
www.relay.acsevents.org.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, I have Larry Pecora. Once again, make sure you please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Larry Pecora. I live at 105 Heathcliff Drive in Poplar Grove, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Mike Winnie for appointment to Boone County Fire District 3 trustee. I have found in the short time I've known Mr. Winnie, last 6 months since he appointed, for him to be a man of honor and integrity. Mr. Winnie has served our country within the U.S. Army, where his primary mission was assigned to a medic evac unit, evacuating wounded soldiers from the battlefield. When Mr. Winnie returned home to Boone County, he chose to continue serving his community in the capacity of a firefighter EMT with Boone County District 3. In the short time since Mr. Winnie, when he was serving in Iraq in Operation Enduring Freedom and put himself in harm's way on the battlefield, his primary mission was evacuating our wounded troops off the battlefield. So Mr. Winnie has served his country and his community with honor and distinction. I've heard many things said about Mr. Winnie since he's been appointed. The man has always been honest with me, and he's been truthful, and I've never, ever caught him in a lie. Just in a short time since Mr. Winnie's been appointed, we've seen some positive change on the Fire Protection District. Just our last meeting, we voted to establish a fire department website to be more transparent. With the referendum that passed and everything that was happening on social media and people come to meetings and not knowing the financials and not knowing where meetings were or not knowing really much anything about the district, we knew we needed to be more transparent. Just like your county board your county has a website and you can see your financials by just clicking on the links on the county's page, we should be that transparent too. The citizens we protect and serve and pay the taxes should have that information readily available to that. Since Mr. Winnie has been appointed, we've seen an increase in attendance of drills and meetings, just by holding people accountable to the rules that were already in place before he was appointed. We've reached out to our neighbors, Poplar Grove Village Board, the Cape Run Rescue District, because we all need to work together. Now the referendum is done and over, we need to sit down and come up with a plan where we can all peacefully coexist and serve the citizens who are paying the taxes to fund the services we provide. I would hope that you would give Mr. Winnie a full 3 years. He's done a lot in 3 months. Just think what he can do in a full 3-year term. I look forward to working with Mr. Winnie if he's reappointed, and I strongly urge you to support the reappointment of Mike Winnie to North Boone District 3 trustee. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I have Jeff Goings.
My name is Jeff Goings. I live at 397
Please,
West.
please, real close to the microphone. I'm sorry. You can move it around however you need to. That's okay.
My name is Jeff Goings. I live at 397 West Park Street, Poplar Grove. Mr. Chairman Johnson, I support the reappointment of Mike Winnie to the North Boone Fire District 3 Board of Trustees. He was appointed in December 2018 to fill a vacancy and serve with commitment and integrity. Mike did serve in the United States Army for 6 years as a UH-60 helicopter crew chief. Also, he served his country with distinguished honor during his deployment in Afghanistan under Operation Enduring Freedom for the Aeromedical Evacuation Unit. Mike's unit primary responsibility was to evacuate NATO forces and local injured. After his service in Afghanistan, the Army assigned him to Fort Belvidere in Virginia. During his service with A Company 12th Aviation Battalion, he obtained his National Registry EMBT license. Mike has adept knowledge of experience running on both BLS and ALS, and listed as EMT Class B. His competence and familiarity surrounding the nuances of emergency management systems make him an asset to the community and the Fire Protection District. Thank you in advance for your time and consideration of Mike Winnie's reappointment to the North Boone Fire District 3 Board of Trustees. I believe the community and Boone County Board will continue to find his talents and expertise a benefit to the operations of the Fire Protection District. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I have Gail Worley. Just a reminder, please speak close to the microphone. You can move that microphone however you need to so that it's more comfortable for you.
Hello, my name is Gail Worley. I live at 7151 Illinois Route 173, Poplar Grove. I'm the fire chief of North Boone District 3. I've served 40-plus years there, coming up through the ranks, 14 years as a firefighter, 16 years as assistant chief, and 13 years as chief now. I've worked with 10 or 12 different trustees over the years, and I've had a good working relationship with all of them. Some of them I knew before they were appointed, some I did not know, but we've never had issues. I mean, we've made a lot of progress over the years, and I've never seen applicant come in for a trustee to upset the department like Mr. Winnie has. Right away, before he was even appointed, he was telling the firefighters that he was the new trustee and there was going to be a lot of changes coming down. People were going to be leaving. And we found out at our February trustees meeting when Mr. Johnson and Mr. Newhouse were there that Mr. Johnson never notified him until that night that he was the new trustee. So why was he telling the firefighters and upsetting them right away that morning is beyond me. He lied directly to me when I questioned him on a couple things, and then after I called him on it, and then he admitted to me that he had lied. And so, I mean, that's just not the kind of person I think that we need representing our community and our firefighters if we have no trust in them. The reason I wrote the letter and sent all of you is I stand behind my people, and the majority of them, as you can see, are here tonight. Come and talk to me and ask me and voice their opinion on it. So that is why I sent you the letter that I did. Last Sunday we had a breakfast. Mr. Winnie said at the head table that we always ask our trustees to help take money, greet the people, and he wouldn't even look up and smile at most of them. I mean, he's not a very personable person. And our department is very community-minded. We do a lot of community events, and I just think he's going to be a detriment to our department. And I also know that some of the people that are supporting him are saying that I'm not in favor of training. my two assistant chiefs, Mike McIntyre, John Ragland, and myself, were the first ones on our department back in 2006 to go get our Firefighter 2 certificate from the State Fire Marshal's office. In 2011, we got a state-of-the-art training facility built at our station for us and all the Boone County and neighboring departments to use. So they cannot say that I'm holding back the department because of training. And that's the main issue. Is I just think we could use a better candidate. I know we had a couple other applicants. I'm not promoting either one of them. I know one and I don't know one. But I just think it would be better served for the department if we could get a different candidate than Mr. Winnie. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I have Tim Davis.
Good evening. My name's Tim Davis. I live at 214 Carson Drive in Poplar Grove. I've been a taxpayer for 18 years. I've also been a member of the District 3 Fire for 15 years. I currently hold the rank of captain and I am the training officer there. I'm writing this letter and speak on behalf of Mike Winnie. There have been a lot of rumors and accusations flying around about Mike and what impact he's had.
Excuse me, Mr. Davis. Could you just make sure you move that? Yeah, there you go. Thanks. We just want to make sure we record it.
Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. There's been a lot of accusations and rumors flying around about Mike and what impact he's had since becoming a trustee and what his true motive is and wanting to hold this position. He's been accused of not being active as a member to the fire department, creating hardships for other members by not being there. Like Mike, all the rest of us have day jobs. Mike is currently active and he's becoming a union iron worker and he's in the apprenticeship program. So that coincided with a lot of our meeting nights. Mike was handed in different schedules when he changed and let them know he was not going to attend. Now, some of the, they say that, the trainings and stuff, we do have a training tower. It's one of the best around, if not the best. The chief was right when he said that he was the first, along with his assistant chiefs, become the first certified for firefighters in our district. But I bet we can count on one hand, maybe just over, since. And as far as using the tower, we used it 0 times last year. We didn't have enough people there to use the tower. Additionally, a lot of what they say as far as lack of trust thrown around to our department with the mistruths and accusations and slandering going on from certain individuals, it's easy to see why there's such discordant division in this department. I've sat in meetings before and heard, well, if we don't get who we want, we'll just make life a living heck on them. This is not the way we want our leadership either. I hear different rumors as far as what goes on, and it's a perfect example. Tonight he said, Chief stood up here and said that all the support he's got here tonight, this is a perfect example. I'm a fireman. There's a couple others here that are not in uniform. We weren't invited. We had no call. We had no warning to come in uniform. Why? Because I support Mike Winnie? My own opinion. I just hope you look past all the name calling, the finger pointing, make a good judgment. The taxpayers deserve nothing less. We need a guy that's going to hold people accountable. I didn't say get rid of everybody. I wasn't there. I can't speak to what Mike said when he spoke to these individuals and stirred them up. All I can say is I've seen what Mike's done. He's been to every single meeting. He's been attentive. He's taken care of his business. He's been to trustees meetings, trustees trainings. He's been to our trainings. He's contacted District 1 and District 2 and tried to get a same training concept as they have and the same accountability. If that's too much, I'm sorry. But to me, training is life in a fire. I want to thank you all for the time.
Thank you. Next up, I'd accept a motion to approve the, well, do we have any recognition? Sheriff, do you have any recognition this month? No, sir. Oh, that's all right. All right. Next up, I would accept a motion to approve the appointments. Mr. Ellington,
Can we separate these out again?
if you'd so desire.
I appreciate it. Do all of them except the number 3 fire district.
Okay. So you'd like to pull out the appointment to Fire District 3 as a separate motion?
Yes.
Excuse me, we'll do that one last then. Then I would accept a motion to approve all the appointments except the one for Fire District 3. So moved by Ms. Gieske, seconded by Mr. Stark. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Next up, I would accept a motion to approve the Fire District 3 appointment.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Stark, seconded by Mrs. Milner. Discussion. Mr. Ellingson.
Thank you. I've got several things to touch on here, so bear with me. As we look at what's gone on here, and I was quite surprised when I saw the recommendation come out to appoint Mr. Winnie back in. And I've got to tell you, I probably know the Winnie family as well as anybody here. And I've known 4 generations of the Winnie family, and they're all great people. They're all good people, and I commend Mike for his service to the country. As family friends, we've gotten along a long time with the families, and so I don't have a problem with that part of it. But I do have a problem with this particular appointment. I think we can definitely do a better job, and I want to just address a couple of the things that our chairman gave us and why he recommends him tonight. And no offense, but I know we're seeing different things. I found it interesting when we look here and we think that one of the strengths is his desire for training. And we're amazed at how the training has turned around since he's become a trustee. I thought maybe I'd get some of that credit myself. I made the same meeting that was his first meeting when and went to it, saw him put on, heard the discussion that was a continuing discussion from several months about training problems and training things that needed to happen. And they had a couple of mandatory meetings after that about training. They all knew it was important. It was something they were working on. I didn't hear anything exciting come out that he had great ideas on how to do it that night. He had ideas like some others did, but when I read in here that we've gone from around 8 people a meeting to now that number is going between 15 and 23 people per event, I just have to correct that a little bit. And they did have 23 people at one event, but the fire department has actively 23 active firefighters. That's the size of it, just to give you an idea. So to have 23 people at an event, you would think they had 100% of their people there, and that's pretty phenomenal. And they did actually have, as I understand it, maybe 16 or 17 there. And the difference in that was they had a joint meeting that night between them, and I believe Belvidere district or one of the other districts was invited to come to the same training meeting they had. So a part of that 23 was outside fire department people, or from a different fire department. And everybody has records and everybody has a way of counting. The way this comes out, there were 6 or 7 people from another department that are counted in that 23, because I know you didn't have 100% attendance of all your firefighters. You also go on in the letter and you talk about, look at the letters that have come forward and look at who they're from. And the letters are interesting, and they do point out some things, but as I look at the letters, and all of them, and for the last several months, it seems that there's a big thing between, do you support Poplar Grove or District 3 Fire, or do you support the Cape and Rescue Squad? And I don't find that to be the issue here. I support both of them. In the years that I've been in northern Boone County, I've had both the fire department and rescue squad come to different Ellingson members' homes. And thank God they've always done a good job, no matter which group it was. But I think when this matter comes up and I hear it talk about it and I see signs for the last couple of months, I support Cape and Rescue Squad, I'm not sure I understand how that became part of the conflict, because they both have a place and they both have things they do. And I think for years people have thought that both the rescue squad and the fire department do very good things in the area. We both know, or we all basically know, that there's some infighting in every group and every organization around. We've had times in this council that, we have some disagreements and we talk about them, and we've had them there. But I'm quite surprised when it turns around and the county chairman, who's in a very tough spot, has said, you decide where we want to go with our next trustee. And I think for a person to name that without really knowing the ins and outs of that fire department, or knowing the ins and outs of the people and the names that are on there, that it takes a little extra help to kind of sort some of these things out. As I look at the names in the letters, as you ask us to do, I find several of them are people from the rescue squad. Several of them people that were past rescue squad people, and that's fine. I'm not sure what that has to do with placing a trustee on the fire department. I also look at it, and as I've talked to quite a few people about the situation, as I said, there's 23 active firefighters on the roster. 17 of them, there were more names, but 17 of them that were on the letter that the chief put in are of that active group. There were 2 letters that came from people that are with the fire department that were opposed to the other 17, that who favor Mr. Winnie to be on. There's 5 that I haven't heard a stand from. But when I look at the simple numbers of it, I don't believe 17 of them are all liars. I also don't think that our chairman's a liar. I heard the reports before the last meeting even about who was appointed and how he was appointed and what changes were going to be made and how some people were going to be losing their jobs there. And it was kind of simple in my mind. Either I had to trust my chairman or I had to trust the man that wanted to be a trustee. And I actually thought it was pretty easy to decide which way to go because of some of the things that were being said and some of the comebacks I heard from both people about, what they did or didn't say. So I definitely think that when you've got, as I look at it, at least 70% of the active firefighters thinking this is a wrong move. I don't see that it's our place as a committee to try and disrupt this organization anymore. It's a good organization. I'd like to see us keep it that way and keep it moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Ellingson. I did want to address just a couple quick things that you mentioned. One, the 23 attendees at that meeting. I had those lists. Those lists were the lists from North Boone Fire. That was their list of people, and it was their totals that totaled up 23 people from their department that was on that list. It wasn't outside names. The list from the months prior to that list were the same list. So those at number 23, whether it was active firefighters, whether it was other support staff, it's whatever list that they have that they keep track of and they keep a roll call of. So that 23 was 23 North Boone Fire District personnel.
Could you share that?
I'd be happy to after the meeting. I think it's in my car, to be honest.
Okay.
I meant to
Because I'd like
actually
to
bring
see
it with me, but I was more concerned actually with finding David Terranoni
I
than.
understand.
So, but I would be happy to share that with you after the meeting. The other thing is, you mentioned a lot of the other letters, and I'm 100% with you that you can find letters. I could go out on the street corner and get 15 people to write 4 different letters for me if I wanted to. That's not that difficult. But as I said in the information I sent to all the board members, there was one letter in particular that really struck a chord with me, and that was the letter from Mr. Pecora, who is a trustee. And I had lengthy conversations with Mr. Pecora about being a trustee and how he was happy that someone with an outside voice was coming in with an outside perspective. And he was glad that we as a board took that step and were willing to do that and give that outside voice an opportunity. That's the letter that really struck a big chord with me. Whether Mr. Winnie is a good firefighter, is an active firefighter, perhaps it's wrong in my opinion, perhaps I'm wrong, but in my opinion is a moot point. Mr. Winnie is on the Board of Trustees not to be a firefighter. He would be on the Board of Trustees to keep watch over the people's money. Let's never forget, this is a taxing body. They collect a tax from Boone County taxpayers, and they are in charge of managing those funds to the best of the ability of those trustees to manage a department for the safety of the community. And I say the community because it's not just North Boone Fire District 3 district. They go on mutual calls all over. So it's more than just a District 3 appointment, in my opinion. It has a much broader effect. And when we talk about training, I think training is very important because training is a lifeblood for those firefighters. I'm a sales rep, for crying out loud. I sell fire hydrants, which is kind of cool when you think about it. But I sell fire hydrants, and I go to training every couple of years. But for somebody that has to go into a burning building or be at an active scene or something like that, not only is that training important for them as an individual, but for those around them. And perhaps that homeowner or that person that may be in there or whatever, or another district that they're helping. So I put a lot of stock in those few items. That's my perspective. Let me see if anybody else has anything they want to say. Anyone else? Mr. O'Malley.
I've actually known this family for a long, long time. I looked at a map of 1870, and they had a farm in Bonus Township back then. They're very good people. My grandfather, my uncles, my cousins are all rural fire departments out in Iowa. I grew up in fire trucks. And you really need good leadership. You can't have people running their own business. I think you need outside people running a board that manages the fire workers. I just, the chief has his, everyone has their role, but I think you need some outside control. I would really support Mr. Winnie.
Anyone else? Mr. Ellingson, I'll give you the last word.
Okay, but we got to ask you first, did you get more than one letter from Mr. Scora?
Mr. Pecora?
Pecora?
Oh, I had the one letter from Mr. Pecora, and I had multiple conversations with him.
Okay.
Because I did put his number in my email and encouraged everybody to call and talk to him.
Okay. Well, that letter that you got from him was dated the day after we put him on the first time.
Correct.
So that wasn't saying what he had done. That was just a thank you for putting him on at the time. So I just want to make sure, we're not...
That's why I made sure that I clarified I've had several conversations with him since that time, and I encouraged all the board members to call him also. So, all right. Let's do roll call, please.
Sherry Bartelt,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Denny Ellingson,
No.
Sherry Gieske,
Yes.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
No.
Jessica Muehlner,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
Yes.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward,
Yes.
Carl Johnson.
Yes. Motion carries. Next up, community agencies. By the way, thank you everyone for coming and participating in public comment. And more than anything, thank you for being civil in your public comments. I appreciate that. Next up, Council on Aging.
Come back to me if you would in a minute.
Absolutely.
I want to hear from me.
Sure. Growth Dimensions. Pam?
You sure know how to clear a room. It's okay, Pam. I don't think it's working.
Thank you. So I just wanted to start with the Growth Dimensions dinner that we held a couple weeks ago. We had a great representation. Thank you very much for those who attended. We had about 250 people in total. It was a great balance of a tribute to the people and the businesses and the community in Boone County. Also, we had a presentation from Mark Peterson from Intersect, Illinois. And his presentation is on our website. But he shared a lot of good data and information about what makes our area so special. Also, I had a conversation with him yesterday, and he said, you know, he as limited as he's been in Boone County, it was really very apparent to him and how committed people were and how engaged they are in our community. And he indicated, you know, this is really unique, and this is something that we need to foster and try to help promote. So we had about 20,000, just under 20,000 in sponsorships, so it was very successful. And that's not our goal. Our goal is to actually celebrate the community and show our appreciation and provide information. And sometimes we able to get the support in order to do that. And after that presentation, or after the weekend, a number of people did hear about Ken, and I wanted to tell you that I received a lot of calls that Monday and Tuesday offering support and prayers and well wishes to Ken and the family, and as well as the family here. We're also going to be working with Intersect Illinois in representing Team USA in Washington in May at the Select USA conference. Last year, they had about 1,000 businesses that were represented from other countries. So it's really an opportunity for us to get our name out there and market Illinois and what some of our great features are. We also participated in a site selections forum and a council reception yesterday in Chicago, and Sherry Gieske had attended that a couple of years ago. And it's always a lot of good information. They shared everything from data to marketing tools and workforce programs, as well as what is considered a business-friendly environment in the eyes of site selectors. So this is very beneficial information on how we're going to move forward with our marketing materials, our website, the information that we're providing, and how we need to customize our programs and our services and really market some of our best features. So we'll continue to work with that. We also have been working with ComEd, who started a pilot program last year in other areas. And they're going to offer that in our area. They have a 3-hour program that's an opportunity for us to have like a simulation of what a site selector process is. So this is so the board here and leaders in the community can really get an experience of what it is like to receive an opportunity from a business outside the area and simulate what site selection process is really all about and what it means and the details that go into this and the decisions that they have into making this process or to identifying where they want to go or how the areas get eliminated. So we're going to conduct this in partnership with them. We'll just determine a time, location that's feasible, but it'll be about a 3-hour process, and we hope that everyone will be able to participate in that. Some highlights. Our enterprise zones are still growing. We have just over $2 million in capital investment since January 1st of 2019. We have 4 new projects, and we have 2 in the wings. And we're still working on 14 projects that opened last year. We're also submitting a new project called Project G. It's a manufacturer seeking over 60 acres of land or 320,000 square foot building for your manufacturing facility. They're looking within 35 miles of Rockford, so we have a very good chance. And they're looking to invest about $50 million, and this may result in 160 jobs. And speaking of jobs, I know a lot of people are wondering where the FCA and how that's coming along. We were told that just over 2,000 would be affected through the FCA and the suppliers. We've had record of just under that thus far. Some of our Tier 1 suppliers have decided not to lay off anybody, but then again, their customer is beyond the FCA. There's been workshops that are being held by the Workforce Connection on site to share what services and resources are available to them. There's also been an application to the U.S. Department of Labor to apply for what they call TAA and TRA funds. These are additional funds to help them with additional unemployment benefits and additional training. And this is submitted to the U.S. Department of Labor. So, and one would qualify based on loss of jobs to other countries. So, these loss of these jobs are due to the plant and the building of the Jeep Cherokee in China. So, 100 FCA used to export to 100 countries from Belvidere. Now they're going to be doing that out of China. So on May 1st, there's going to be another hiring event, and they're targeting businesses that are hiring at $15 an hour or more, hopefully with similar skill sets, and it'll hopefully they've got a handful of employers that are currently interested and qualified, but they're hoping that this will be another good success. We've also hosted a meeting with a Swedish company called Mogensen, and they were working with, they're interested in having relationships with feed producers and other firms in order to develop some partnerships. So this is one of their first meetings here in the Midwest, and we hope that that relationship will continue to grow. I think that's kind of the summary of today. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Growth Dimensions? Mr. Newhouse.
It was probably a year ago we talked about the importance of having
Mr. Newhouse, I'm going to get yelled at if I don't tell you to use your microphone more.
My apologies.
Thank you.
We were told about the importance of having ground ready, having information ready, and having everything at our fingertips when anyone came calling.
Mm-hmm.
If I could just take the example of the one company that's offering a rather large investment within 35 miles of Rockford, are we ready?
We have one site that we were able to meet their qualifications. So we would like to have more. We should have more. We have a lot of available space that we've identified as being where we'd like to see future manufacturing. Unfortunately, we do not have sewer and water there, and we have some connection potential for utilities, but sewer and water is key.
Ms. Miller?
On the subject of economic growth, I just want to say that because it's spring, I had an opportunity to do some painting over the weekend, and I went to RP Lumber, our new hardware store in the county, and I would just tell everyone to go there. I had a great experience. The paint was cheap. They got a cool points program where you get discounts and coupons and stuff. I got a good deal. Everybody was really nice. And, and a key portion of economic growth is supporting the businesses that are here. It's because they tell the story. So go to RP Lumber, buy stuff.
And
Thank
actually,
you.
that's what we've seen in this last year. And part of that site selector forum that we went to yesterday, they said the same thing. With companies looking to consolidate or, some of their buildings, fostering these relationships in your community currently are very important.
Any other questions for growth dimensions, Mr. Newhouse?
Of the 2,000 from Fiat that have been laid off, can you tell me what percentage are Boone County residents, or do we know?
That's a good question. Actually, it was just over 2,000 supposedly from Fiat and suppliers. So we did get preliminary numbers a few weeks ago of the percentages and identified those counties. I don't have a specific count for Boone County, but I have to say in our region it's about 50%, just under 50% in our greater region. So Boone, Winnebago, and Stevenson County primarily, just about 50%. And the others, it's ranges Wisconsin. There were some from Michigan. So their addresses are 70 miles or more.
Anything further? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
CASA, Charlotte.
All right. So I'm Charlotte Meyer. I'm the director of Boone County CASA. We train volunteers to advocate for the abused, neglected children in our community. And I'd like to go into a little bit more detail about that, if that's okay. So,
a little closer to the microphone,
yeah,
please.
I feel like I'm already eating it. The court is required to appoint a guardian ad litem to all abused, neglected children, and in Boone County, CASA fulfills that role. In other counties, if you don't have a CASA program, a private attorney is hired to be the GAL for these children. Not only is that obviously expensive, or could be expensive, for the county to pay for a private attorney to handle all these visits and all these phone calls and the travel, because many of our children are not placed here in Boone County. But the children are then only seen approximately once every 6 months. I have every hope that this attorney would do their due diligence and see these children as often as they could, but obviously they would be busy as well. And seeing them every 6 months or possibly every 6 months would not give them a great view of this child's life or the services that they're needed. Our CASA advocates see the children at least once a month. Many times it's more than that. They have conversations with parents, with foster parents, with caseworkers, counselors, teachers, daycare providers, anybody that plays a role in these children's lives, because our goal is to understand what these children are going through to the best of our abilities, and then report that back to the court. We want to make sure that they get the services that they need: counseling, developmental screens, behavior therapy, occupational therapy, tutoring, anything that these children need while they're in care. We want that to happen. And our goal is for these children to grow up to be happy, healthy adults and to break the cycle of abuse and neglect for their own families later on in life. And I don't know that seeing them once a month maybe wouldn't be as beneficial for these kids. So just wanted to give you a little bit kind of on where we're coming from and why we think that CASA is so important. So that being said, we serve 44 children right now. We did get 2 new children in the past month, unfortunately. We have 20 advocates, with 18 of them currently having cases. I do have 2 new advocates that are starting training next week, so we're excited about that. Other than that, we are just preparing for our big summer fundraiser, which is our 3rd annual Cars for CASA event, which is August 24th from 11 to 3. Sponsorship and informational letters will be sent out here hopefully within the next week or 2, and then registration will start shortly after that. So car show, food trucks, vendors, DJ, kind of just a fun day at the community building. So,
All right, questions for CASA?
No question.
Mr. Carlisle.
We all understand how important CASA is for these kids. And Charlotte just gave you the short list. If you go to their meetings, and you're all welcome to come to these meetings, you'll find out it's also medical. And when you talk about a child who's very young and has no idea what life really is, and they come up with a medical problem all the way from a cold to cancer, you start to understand why seeing these kids as often as possible is really a necessity. And it's an eye-opener. And I think all of us have seen this before. I know somebody else has been in these boards before, but it is an eye-opener. A service that is done extremely well and helpful to this county and professes itself only as helping when it's really more than that. I just want to thank you for the time, Charlotte. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Jeff. Anybody else? Charlotte, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up, Board of Health. Would that be you, Jeff? I don't see Amanda here.
Yeah, Amanda's not here. We have nothing to report at this time, but thank you for bringing this up.
I just happened to be at the Board of Health board meeting.
Yes, sir.
I have a little note from Amanda to share with you. She thanks us all for actually helping
Mr. O'Malley, closer, please.
She thanks us for helping out in the training exercise that we so much enjoyed. And she has the Boone County Healthy Work project going on with the intern, and that's on a grant from UIC. There's a current outbreak of hepatitis A, so they're trying to immunize for the hepatitis A. They got some free vaccine for that. Boone County ranks 16 in the healthiest county in Illinois, which is commendable, but we have been higher in the past. In 2018, we were 15. In 2017, we were 14th. So we need to really work on our drug issues in the county. This is what pulled us back a little bit. They look at 30 different areas that they grade us on. And she has a Boone County Quality Improvement and Performance Management Plan underway, and she'll report on that later. And there's a reminder, there's a community trauma awareness movie that's going to be showing sometime in the future. See if I don't have the flyer on it, but there's something coming up. And that is all.
Thank you, sir.
Carl?
Yep, Sherry?
May I? I was assigned to pass out the pass out the flyer for the first focus group on healthy work in Boone County. It is Thursday, April 25th at 6:30 p.m. at the Caper Lines Club Community Building. And I'm going to pass this around, and if anyone in the audience wants one of these, grab one too.
Super. The Regional Planning Council was postponed till next month. There wasn't going to be a quorum, so they postponed it. One quick thing while I'm thinking of it. When I had the opportunity to talk with Ken's brother David out in the hallway before the meeting, we talked a little bit about I've had people ask me about flowers or things for Ken. And at this point, he cannot accept any live plants in the room that he is in. And in discussing it with his brother, he suggested that maybe we just keep things to cards right now. Part of that being that they know how many people in the community care about Ken, and if they say, yeah, start sending stuff, they may have to hire a wing of the hospital to store balloons and things like that. So cards are wonderful for the family and Ken. And if somebody's not sure where to send them, they can always bring them to the county admin office, and we will make sure that they get to Molly in a timely manner. So just while I'm thinking of that. Mr. Ellingson, just getting back to you, anything on Council on Aging? Anything on Council on Aging?
Yes. We did meet Monday night, and we really had a pretty good meeting. This county board, I think the Finance Committee, has been challenging all groups to put together a list of things they do, things they need money for as you look at budgets and work on that. And they really took that to heart. And they looked at the things that they've done, and they looked at their chart of growth the last several years. I think it was 4 years they were showing, and the number of people that they have helped with tax issues, the number of people that they have helped with insurance items and getting insurance for the next year, and the programs that are available that they've taken them through, and the number of people that come through their doors. and the number of writers that they have in their programs is just kind of an amazing rise in numbers. And it shouldn't be that amazing, because when you look at people in this county and every other county, this country is aging fast. And there's a lot of older people that are taking advantage of some of these benefits. But even in spite of that, the growth and the work they've been doing is just tremendous. And I think it was a great exercise for that committee to do and then look back at it, as well as hopefully, or they're hoping, of course, that the county will get a hold of it and see their need and maybe be able to help them more.
Thank you. Any questions? Super. Thank you, Mr. Ellingson. Any other committees? Okay. I'd accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Ward, seconded by Mr. Stark. I do, before we vote, just want to point out we do have one raffle for the Marine Corps League, number 083. Is there anybody here representing that league at all? Okay. And there are several donations ranging from anywhere from $10 to $100 for the Animal Services Department. Typically I would like to read them all, but there's quite a few, so I may run out of breath before I get through them. So I'd encourage you to please look at the consent agenda and thank all those people for their commitment to our Animal Services Department. With that being said, all in favor of the consent agenda, approve by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. First up, planning and zoning. Mr. Ellingson.
9.1 is a motion to refer the proposal to renew the 1992 agricultural area with the proposed modifications to the Boone County Agricultural Area Committee, who will discuss the proposed modifications on Tuesday, April 23rd at 9 a.m. in the Boone County Boardroom located at the Boone County Administration Campus at 1212 Logan Avenue, Belvidere.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ellingson, seconded by Mr. Stark. Discussion. Dan, anything to add to this at all?
This is a standard step. This is for the 1992 ag area. The state requires that the county board reviews that ag area every 8 years, and so this is just a normal review of that area. We did receive a petition to add a parcel into the area, and also a separate petition to remove land from the area. However, we did receive an updated letter from the family that requested to remove land that they would like to remain in the ag area. So on Tuesday, April 23rd, we will be addressing the one parcel that is requesting to be added in the area.
Any discussion? Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Ellingson.
9.2 is a motion to approve ordinance 19-20, amending building regulation chapter of the Boone County Code to add a commercial solar fee schedule.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ellingson, seconded by Mr. Newhouse. Discussion. Anything to add, Dad?
I would just add really quickly, this is essentially a fee ordinance that establishes fees for commercial solar facilities. This was put together after research by Drew Bliss, our senior building inspector here at the county, and I would defer any other questions to Mr. Bliss.
Okay. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Jeff Carlisle?
Yes.
Denny Ellingson?
Yes.
Sherry Gieske?
Yes.
Carl Larson?
Yes.
Ray Larson?
Aye.
Jessica Muehlner?
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse?
Yes.
Bernard O'Malley?
Yes.
Brad Stark?
Yes.
Kathy Ward?
Yes.
Carl Johnson?
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt?
Yes.
Motion carries. Mr. Ellingson, anything else? Nope. Finance, Ms. Gieske.
Item 10.1 is a motion to approve claims with the understanding that Carl Johnson abstains from voting on all claims presented by William Charles, and Denny Ellingson abstains from voting on all claims presented by Conserv FS. This was approved 4-0 in committee.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Gieske, seconded by Mr. Carlisle. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Denny Ellingson?
Yes.
Sherry Gieske,
Yes.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Jessica Mulner,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
Yes.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle.
Yes.
Ms. Kieske.
I think that motion carried, right?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Motion carried. Sorry.
10.2, motion to approve, is a motion to approve Resolution 1909, a sale of delinquent taxes. Again, approved 4-0 in committee.
Motion by Ms. Kieske. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Carlisle. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Sherry Gieske,
Yes.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Jessica Mulner,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
Yes.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Denny Ellingson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Ms.
That's
Kieske,
it.
anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you. Roads, Mr. Stark, any words of wisdom to pass to us?
No.
Okay. Health and Human Services, Mr. Carlisle, at the light.
Nothing to report at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Admin, Mr. Newhouse.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve Resolution 19-08, establishing civil fees and criminal and traffic assessments to be charged by the clerk of the circuit court.
Motion by Mr. Newhouse. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Carl Larson. Discussion. Mr. Newhouse.
The second paragraph of the resolution says it all. The General Assembly passed comprehensive legislation in 2018. They took it. And so each county has the ability to write these resolutions to come alongside the state. There are going to be, I think, guesstimates on how the fees are allocated, and we're going to find out over the upcoming year to maybe 18 months if we've guesstimated right, and there may be adjustments, but as of now, this was what multiple departments have come up with that would be best suited to come alongside with what the state's done.
Any questions or other discussion? Roll call, please.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Jessica Mulner,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
Yes.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Denny Ellingson,
Yes.
Sherry Gieske.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve adopting a revised County Board Standing Committee meeting schedule labeled Version 3 and dated April 4th, 2019 for the remainder of the calendar year.
Motion by Mr. Newhouse. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. O'Malley. Discussion. Ms. Kieske.
Since I acquiesced and didn't want to make an amendment, I do remember we talked about at committee that during this time we will be looking at reviewing, streamlining, simplifying, modernizing, whatever term you want to use, our committee structure. So is it safe to assume we will do that even though it is not in this motion?
That has been a desire of you to ask for that, and I will absolutely gladly ask that Mr. Newhouse continue to pursue that as we move forward here. Obviously, like we discussed,
Yep.
I think Dan's got one or two things going on, here and there. But as he finds time and we get the ability to move forward and attack those things, absolutely. Mr. Newhouse.
That's not part of the motion, but that is a wonderful agenda item.
Correct. Ms. Kieske.
And I don't think Dan has to do that. I think we have other people that can also help.
Sure, certainly. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, admin has no further motions.
City County, Ms. Ward, anything you'd like to share?
No motion, Chair. Sorry.
Thank you. Public Safety, Mr. Larson, anything you'd like to share?
No motions, nothing further at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Community Building.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. We're in the midst of doing a budget, and we are optimistic that we will be able to increase our revenues and increase our profit line even better than they were this year. So that's really good news for this particular group. I do want to mention one thing, that we have a little extra money, as I've talked about before, and we budget $12,000 to help with various community things that we think are going to help in whatever way. And the one that we approved at the last meeting is one that perhaps some of you are familiar with. It's called Build a Bike. And under that particular program, if you can give $100 to this Build a Bike program, which has been growing greatly in the last few years, a child that does not have a bike can get a bike. And I can't remember how many hundred are now done. Walmart helps out. They provide the people who will actually come and help the kids assemble these bikes and have a bike. But with the money that we have, which is $12,000 a year, we spend $1,000 of it right now to help some of the kids get bikes that don't have them. So if you're interested in this program, it sounds like a really great program. And I'm not sure if it's Cosmo who does it. I'm not sure which organization. It looks like Tricia knows. Good.
It's actually a separate committee, a group of its own. Jen Jackie from the Y, I want to say, started it along with Karen Manley at Manley Motors and Joe Hemblock there. I know Matt Brandon from the Shoppers involved. So they have a committee that is. And actually, we had gotten an email that all 100 bikes that they hope to sponsor this year have been filled already. So that was a great accomplishment. I think that it was up from 60 last year, maybe,
I know,
or
it's
80.
a growing program, and there's a lot of kids out there happy for it. That's great.
But I know that everyone, if anyone's still wanting to help or has a group that still wants to help, they're still looking for volunteers for that night, which is, of course, May 15th, which is our board meeting night. But they're also looking for people to donate other items as well to the program. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. UCCI, I think the last meeting was the one in Springfield, correct? And
It was.
Ms. Ward, you
I
and
can
Mr.
address
O'Malley.
a little bit of that, and
Mhm.
then I would defer also to Carl and Dr. O'Malley. One thing I would say, I don't get to a lot of the ones down in Springfield, but every time I do, if you have the chance to go, it really kind of energizes you to see all the people down there and what they're all trying to do. And the other thing Dr. O'Malley has mentioned many times before, as soon as Ken gets down there, he's besieged by people who all want to ask him questions, and he's highly respected, and it never has a dull minute without somebody trying to ask him what his advice would be on a particular thing. We did meet with Senator Severson, and I wish I could tell you it was a positive-sounding thing for the state, but it wasn't. But it was very informative. So if you have the chance to go down there and do that, or you have the chance to go to Galena, it's just kind of energizing to know that as county board members, we're part of a pretty big organization in this state that's really trying to do a lot of good things. The two things that struck me, and certainly I think Carl, Dr. O'Malley will fill in, one thing they seem to be very concerned about is the census. They're very concerned that with all the reports that we see that we're losing people in this state, that we could lose 2 congressional seats. There's going to be a big push on to make sure that we get the right census numbers so that we will not lose those 2 seats. And I talked to the mayor. I'm another committee with Mayor Mike, and they're already working on that. And I think we're going to be asked to perhaps help through our city-county committee or perhaps another one. But that was one of the big topics. And, of course, we're hearing about all different kinds of ways that they want to get a capital plan started so we can get more money. And there's probably not going to be any more casinos coming up in Illinois, they told us. So there's lots of things going on, but if you do have a chance to get to one of these meetings, and I know Ken went to not all of them, but I think you did, Dr. O'Malley. You go to almost all of them.
I have one more thing to add. The Secretary of State's office can give us an actual letter to let us get rid of our files that are able to be purged. And there's a whole state regulation of which ones you have to have and how long, and you have to apply to the Secretary of State for that. So we really need to get started with that. It's something we haven't done for quite some time. And that would be nice to try and figure out. I think that one of the committees, they should probably discuss that. So would that be admin that would do that, you would think?
Yeah, I would think that would be something the admin could tackle. Dan and I can discuss that and see how we want to proceed with that. Yeah, I know that Ken had started that process. It's something he and I had discussed several times. So we'll start. We definitely want to start moving on that sooner rather than
The
later.
guy who gave the talk was very droll. I don't know where they found him, but he was in a back room, and he was an older man who's done it for maybe too long.
Well, I will echo Ms. Ward's statement that our meeting with Senator Severson was, man, I'll tell you what, I felt pretty depressed afterwards to hear some of the things that are going on in Springfield. However, if you made it to the Growth Dimensions dinner, that was actually very enlightening and very encouraging. So I guess it all depends on how you want to look at it, the glass half empty or glass half full. So there's some good and some bad. Community Action Agency, Ms. Warren.
Yes, at the last, a couple things at the last meeting. They never have enough money, of course, to try to help all the people who are having their water shut off or their electricity shut off or whatever, but they're doing the best that they can. But one thing that they pass out to us every meeting that I think is kind of interesting, they work very hard, this particular agency does, and Mayor Mike Chamberlain is the president of that group, at trying to make sure the staff is always reflective of the people in that particular area that they serve. So they want to have a certain percentage of women and men, a certain percentage of people who are different gender, nationalities, and ages. So every month we get a report, and we see how they are really trying to do all they can to make sure that that group reflects the community. And I think that's pretty good thing they're doing.
Super, thank you. 911, Mr. Newhouse.
Business as usual, paid bills, and I think the correct word would be bellyached about the inability to use iFiber and just began continued discussions about what will happen now that door seems to be closing.
That was my question. What's going on with Next Gen and all of that?
I would say it's an about face. It all depends on multiple things. One of them is that the state will probably have, I think, an overriding decision about what to do slated for 4 years from now, which should mean it should be a decision made within 10 years. And so there's a certain amount of uncertainty right now, I'd say.
Any other questions on that? Thank you, sir. Any other committees? Scheduling of committees. Mr. Newhouse.
Could I make a couple comments in unfinished business?
When we get there.
Oh, I thought we skipped. My apologies.
I'll let you slide there. It's
Okay.
not like I've ever skipped a spot. All right, scheduling of committees. And we do have a new schedule this month, so hopefully you have it because I don't. Ms. Gieske.
Finance Committee will meet Tuesday, May 7th, right here at 6:45 p.m.
Mr. Larson.
The next Public Safety Committee meeting will be Thursday, May 2nd at 6 o'clock p.m. in this room.
Mr. Ellingson.
PZB will meet at 6 p.m. On the 1st in this room.
Mr. Newhouse.
Admin, Tuesday, May 7th, 6 p.m., and Finance is exceedingly optimistic if they think they're going to start at 6:45.
Yes, we are.
Ms.
Oh,
Ward.
no, you were kind enough to make sure my agenda item was on. Okay, I'll give it to you.
City County will meet on May 8th at 6 o'clock in this room.
Mr. Carlisle.
Human Services, 6:45, May 8th, this room.
And Mr. Stark.
Roads will be Thursday, May 2nd. It says 6 here, but I'm assuming we're going to go after PZB or public safety, and we'll shoot for 6:45.
Wonderful. Mr. Newhouse, unfinished business.
3 comments. One, when the first thing that came to mind after Ken became ill was, how's this all going to work? And I want to say a huge thank you, not only to our chairman and vice chairman, who is here doing a lot of work. in particular, I would like to address a lot of other department heads and departments who have offered assistance, who have stepped up, and I think the word teamwork is a huge word here that exemplifies what's going on, and it's just a thank you to all people involved, board members, and in particular department heads. Secondly, just last night, Justin Crone was addressing the Boone Winnebago Farm Bureau at a function. My wife and I were visiting at home afterwards, and she said, "You'd better make sure you got him locked down pretty hard, because if we could have hired him after last night, he would have been hired. That guy's a gem." So just to extend a little praise your direction, sir. Third, and I think this is the most pressing for me, is that when Ken's brother was speaking, he used the phrase, "Ken loved the job." Was he specifically speaking in past tense and that a decision has already been made, or was that something I shouldn't assume?
To my knowledge, no decision has been made of anything like that. I think it's way too soon for any of that decision, because I don't think anybody really knows the extent of any injuries. That you know, as he said, every brain injury is different. So we just don't know.
That was my hope, but I didn't know whether any family decision had already been made.
In my discussion just before the meeting with him, and I did catch that also, I don't think he necessarily intended to mean that Ken would not be back, because I just don't think they know, and I think that might be part of a pessimistic kind of view a little bit, but we're still waiting to see. We just don't know at this point. But it definitely will be. I think everybody's pretty much in agreement that it's going to be a long-term absence, assuming he can come back. And one of the things that they want to, I believe they're going to try and meet with the doctors next week at some point, is what he said. The plan is to meet with the doctors at some point next week and discuss things. And that discussion is all the what ifs. What if he stays the way he is? What if he doesn't make it? What if, he comes out of this completely? All the what ifs. And that's one of the things they're going to discuss. So that's what tells me that they just don't know yet what any of those extents are. Ms. Kieske?
I have one question and then one comment. I missed where they're taking Ken. I couldn't hear what he said.
Sycamore.
He's in Sycamore at an advanced rehab facility. I do not know exactly where.
No, it's okay. I wasn't sure.
But
the old Sycamore Hospital.
Is it the old Sycamore Hospital?
Sycamore Hospital.
Yeah, and it's a place that the biggest rehab for them is to really work on getting him off of the ventilator, and apparently the move and everything yesterday was pretty taxing on him. So today was kind of a rough day. Yesterday was, a very encouraging and positive day. A lot of things were happening, and he was off the ventilator for a lot and those kinds of things. But between being off for a long time and the move and things like that, it sounds like his body was really worn out today, and that I think that stress showed a little bit with him. And when I was talking with him out in the hall, I could feel that stress, that it was a rougher day for him, not as encouraging as yesterday. But those are going to happen. I think they understand it. I think we all understand it. There's going to be some steps forward and some steps back. We just hope the backward steps are a lot smaller than the steps forward. So, Ms. Kieske.
And one more thing. I know Marshall meant this, but we also have to say a big thank you to our deputy administrator.
Absolutely.
He's done a yeoman's job of putting up with all of us.
Absolutely.
Or at least you and I, Carl.
Yeah, absolutely. Marshall?
I was going to put that in new business.
Oh. You are too smooth.
Mr. O'Malley?
I just want to say a few things. When you have brain surgery, your brain actually swells after they get done working on it. So you really get worse after the surgery. Even though it helps you, the brain will, I don't know anything about the case, but I can just tell you when you operate, it swells afterwards. Any organ does that. You look at heart surgery, the patients, you can't even recognize them. They look like they're twice the size after heart surgery. But you have to give it time and wait for the swelling to go down. You have the upper brain function and the lower. It's really, the big thing is, will he be able to breathe on his own? That's the big decision. Will he be able to swallow? These are things you have to get the basic things first. But you can't really make a judgment yet, because when you touch those things, they do get worse.
Yep, absolutely. And Marshall, thank you for pointing out what you pointed out. The big thank you to all the department heads here in Boone County. I'm mad at myself for forgetting to mention that early in the meeting, because that's exactly something I wanted to mention. It's been amazing, the people that have stepped up in this community and in our departments, and even in the city of Belvidere and outside the community. I know Dan's fielded calls from other counties and places from outside the state. I've fielded calls from other county chairmen, just saying, look, anything you guys need, just pick up the phone and ask us, and we're there. So a shout out to all of those people that have offered to help, and all the people here in our community and in our Boone County administrative offices and elected officials that have stepped up to help. It's been huge. It's been really big. So thank you so much. Anything else? Anybody else have anything? Looks like we do not have any other new business or informational items. Anything, Dan, that you want to add? Okay.
Carl, for informational
Mr.
items,
Larson,
I guess
absolutely.
I'll toss something in here. Since it seems to be a bit of a community support night here, I've got some updates on some new initiatives by one of our local nonprofits, RAMP, R-A-M-P. So they're a Center for Independent Living for people with disabilities. And so their first new initiative, which they're just getting off the ground now, is expanding a group of their curriculum and training programs, which they have developed in-house for students with disabilities, and they've already been implementing it locally. Now, since we all love state-funded mandates, or non-state-funded mandates, there is a new mandate for nonprofits such as theirs to develop, as a requirement, curriculum and training programs to help people with disabilities transition into independent living. And so since they already had these programs developed by themselves, they're now looking to package 3 curriculum programs, one for elementary students, one for middle schoolers, and one for high schoolers, so that other disability centers in other states and even nationwide can then purchase these ready-to-go programs out of the box versus these other organizations who might not have developed them already. They can get on the ground running, and then that would be an additional opportunity for a revenue stream from them rather than relying on their typical grants. So they're looking to seize the opportunity there. And so for some numbers on that, their elementary curriculum provides awareness and overviews of multiple disabilities, and 75% of the participants reported increased acceptance of individuals with disabilities, and 50% reported decreases in bullying in the classroom as a result of those awareness. The middle school curriculum builds on emotion regulation, conflict resolution, and goal settings, and 81% of the students, they improved their self-advocacy skills, and 75% of students felt more prepared and active in their own IEP meetings, again, learning more self-advocacy skills on their needs there. And then the high school then switches into the transition for independent living with employment preparation, soft skill development, and help with financial literacy. And 95% of those students were able to participate in mock job interviews and help with resume preparation. And 90% were able to identify and select personal housing goals and employment goals rather than just leaving them vague notions, able to really nail down what they're looking for as their personal goals. So they're looking to capitalize on that opportunity, get a little revenue stream from something that they had already developed in-house, and they're deciding whether they need a salesperson to help kind of pitch that or a marketing agent. They're still kind of putting together that program, but looks like a good step in the right direction for them. And their second new initiative could be of service to local business owners looking for renting outdoor space for private parties, or hosting wedding showers or baby showers for individuals. They're now opening up their outdoor patio at the ramp, which can host over 50 guests per event with fire pits and table busing service. So an example of upcoming opportunities to take advantage of that would be the Rockford City Market along Water Street during the summer months is kind of an ideal space that businesses could use to rent that area. So for more information on renting out the patio, Amy Morris would be the one to talk to, the development director there at RAMP. And one last thing, so their website for those 3 packages they're looking to sell is OnRamp Training, ONRAMP Training.com.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Anybody else have anything else? We do not need executive session, so I'm looking for just one motion. Motion by Mr. Carlisle, seconded by Mr. Stark. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. And happy Easter, everyone.
Hello, darling.